How much tabs do you have on your computer?
I've opened a couple of tabs, few tabs actually, because we'll need them. Today
Just a
we'll
few
talk
tabs.
about. So let's just make the rules. So everyone, please mute your microphones because today's lesson will be focused on a discussion. I won't speak as much as I usually do because I'm not going to present the articles. There are articles that I will use to help us in the discussion, but I will mostly expect you to provide the ideas. So if you could just press mute on your microphone, I'd be very happy because I haven't enabled that option on my Zoom yet. Today we're going to continue with the literature in media. We've done only one lesson from this subject, but it was a very long time ago. I think that it's been like 5 months since we did it. And what we did then was we covered the introductory questions, and we had a very fruitful um, discussion because there were a lot of interesting ideas um, that were discussed. Now, I have to say something about this subject. You know that at the World Scholars Cup, they don't separate the material for junior and the senior group, which means that everyone has to study the same things. This is something that bothers me a lot because especially this subject is really, really difficult. Today we'll talk about the media part of the subject, and we'll leave the literature for some other time. The literature is incredibly difficult, especially for people your age, and you will need all my help to do it properly. Otherwise, um, it could, it could be an obstacle and demotivate you. If you didn't attend the previous lesson when we talked about this subject, I think it would be a good idea to discuss the introductory questions with your teams and to write down the potential answers to the questions. Today, I'll just scroll to this bit, where is it? Over here. So we're going to do this subsection, which is called second times the charm. So if it doesn't work the first time, then the second one, it probably will. As you can see, I've opened a couple of tabs because there are a lot of things that we need to cover. We'll start with the first one, obviously. I don't know if you guys play. Of course, you play video games, but you seem to be playing those dumb video games. Hey, I don't know if you. Sorry. Has anyone played The Witcher, or have you ever heard of The Witcher?
No.
Yes, and I have played it.
The Witcher is an amazing book. It actually started as a fantasy novel, a series actually of fantasy novels, and it has been adapted into different media. I think that there were some Polish productions where they tried to make it into a movie, but the movie is terrible. If you really just want to have some fun, just try to find it, but don't watch it seriously. And they have become so popular that people have found out a lot about Polish tradition and about Polish mythology. Because this guy, the Witcher, the titular hero, where can I find it? Why did this happen? Right. So this is an image from the video game. Uh, you can find the review over here. It's explaining what it does. Basically, this guy, uh, Geralt of Rivia, he's the hero, and he hunts monsters, but not just monsters, men as well. You can probably see that he has two swords. One of them is made of silver.
I'll be right back.
To kill monsters, and the other one is in order to kill people. And there are a lot of freakishly interesting mythological creatures like chimeras and stuff and dragons. And it became an incredibly popular game. I think that it won best game of the year for the second and the third expansion. And people would talk so much about it that the Prime Minister of Poland gave President Obama a copy of The Witcher 2. So if the Prime Minister of the country decides to give it as a present to President Obama, there has to be a lot of value to the present, to what he's giving him. Um, there is an idea, and I think that I'm a victim of that as well. There are people who are obsessed with fantasy, the fantasy genre, with dragons, with witches, with dark magic. And as I said, it's the same case with me. If I see that something has to do with dragons, I immediately watch it, or I buy it, or I play it if it's a video game. There's something inherently cool I find about dragons, and I've done a lot of research on that topic. So there seem to be a lot of new shows which abuse those topics. You're probably too young to have watched Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was a huge series which ended last year. Unfortunately, it didn't end very well after 8 long seasons. But it involved a lot of dark magic, wonderful script, by the way, and a lot of dragons. So when people started being aware of how cool that was, because previously, if you like dragons, you were called a nerd. Like, okay, we are, go geek out in with your friends talking about dragons. It's not cool in the classroom. We're the cool guys. When Game of Thrones was released, everyone started liking it because it was this social phenomenon. Everyone was watching it. Everyone was only talking about Game of Thrones. If you hadn't watched Game of Thrones, then you would be thought of as uncool. So when they did this thing with the Game of Thrones, suddenly there were a lot of shows involving dragons. If you guys have Netflix, you've probably seen that there are a lot of those shows, like in any format. So it could be a movie, it could be a film, it could be anime, a cartoon, whatever. But it involves dragons, like the Dragon Prince, the Dragon Dogma. Basically, they were exploiting this fact. They weren't trying to come up with something original on their own, like new creatures, but they just stick with the dragons and make the most the most of that. Yes, Christina, it's fine. It was the same case with when Star Wars was released. I have no idea when it was released, but I know that it was a new thing for people. I know that I've talked about that with my father. He remembers the first time he saw the movie. Imagine like 50 years ago.
In the 70s, by the way.
70s, yeah. So 50
was
years ago,
1977.
when the special effects weren't that good, and they managed to come up with something so spectacular. So once they had done that, there were other TV shows on the same topic, with space exploration and aliens and huge spaceships. And the ones that have been inspired by the Star Wars series are The Last Starfighter and Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica is an amazing movie, to be honest. Then Twilight was very popular until 10 years ago, with, what was his name? The
Twilight, to this
Patrick.
day, still watch it.
I think his name was Patrick. What was his name? I knew him. Never mind. The good-looking vampire, the sparkling vampire. Once that was popular, everyone spent the following 10 years just making shows about vampires. So the question that we are supposed to discuss over here. Oh, by the way, and I forgot to tell you that because Witcher, the video game, was so popular, Netflix made an adaptation, and this is the role, the titular role. This is Geralt from Rivia. He was played by Henry Cavill. And there's an interesting story here, because Henry Cavill, who also plays Superman, if you've watched movies from the DC universe, he's a gamer as well, like a hardcore gamer. He has a professional setup at home, and he plays World of Warcraft and The Witcher. So when he found out that Netflix was thinking about making a Witcher series, he actually gave them a call personally, and he expressed his interest in playing Geralt, and they made it happen. And I've watched a lot of interviews about how he achieved, but he 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 stayed very faithful to the role, to the character. However, the whole series is rubbish. If you don't have anything better to do, don't watch it. I mean, seriously, it doesn't deserve your time. I watched it because I feel very passionate about the video game, but otherwise, it's nothing to write home about. Sarah, yes, wait, question.
Not a question, but every single Netflix adaptation sucks.
Yes, and that's what we'll be talking about today. The the books are amazing. If you get the chance to find them online, maybe you can find some excerpts as well. Try to read them, they are amazing. However, when they made it into a video game, it also worked great. But when they made the TV series, it sucks. If you watch the Polish version, the one like from 40 years ago, it sucks even more. It's unwatchable. The CGI is so wrong. The characters are not well made. It's really, really bad. So,
Can I say one thing?
yes, Marco, you've raised your hand. Marco?
So, yeah, teacher, I'm gonna be honest with you all. I think that every time that Netflix puts their hands on like rebooting or making a new series of something that already exists, it fails miserably.
Excellent, excellent. We should discuss why. But before we do that, I keep talking about films and movies. Does anyone understand the difference between a film and a movie? I think Maxim has raised his hand. Maxim?
Yeah, teacher, I have to say something about The Witcher. When you said don't watch it, I literally wanted in my head just to watch it, watch it, watch it.
It's the
When
unconscious mind.
someone
Well,
says don't watch it, I'm just gonna watch it.
well, watch it then. Can anyone help me with clarifying what's the difference between a film and a movie?
I can.
Sarah, what do you think? What's the
A
difference?
film is usually live action, and a movie it can be any type of it can be I forgot the word. It can be real life. It can be drawn. I forgot the word. It can be an anime movie. I don't know.
Okay,
It can be
animated
any type of
movie.
movie.
Okay. Adea, has
A
an
movie
idea?
teacher is mostly about not like a film, like life adventure and stuff, but a movie is mostly based off something the audience wants.
That's a very good example. That's right. For example, the Fantastic and the Furious.
Like
There
fan
have been
service.
for the Fast and Furious. There have been 9 movies so far. Is that a film or is it a movie?
Uh,
Episodes.
No, they're not episodes. If it's a series,
Movies,
Yeah.
movies.
Well, I'm gonna say movies because when it's film, it's like most probably like I know there's some films that have sequels, but most of the films have like it's like one film. It's longer, like 2 or 3 hours, and that's it. No more of that comes out.
yeah, like rarely any parts come out.
okay. Jana, what do you think?
Film is art in the eyes of the producer or director or whatever you call them, because a film,
Yeah.
an example for a film can be the Titanic. It's 3 hours long and there's a heartfelt story behind it. Like you can,
Wonderful.
a book can be based on it. And
That's
while
so
a movie
wonderful.
it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just that you can't really express your feelings and you can't really live up to the characters as well as in the film.
Wonderful. Very well put. Now, obviously, it's very difficult to find a clear-cut boundary between what a film and what a movie is, but I could provide like some guidelines in order for you to be able to at least start thinking about it, because it's very important. It is focused on a different thing. I've opened a file over here, and I tried to summarize everything I want to say in 4 sentences. So there are 4 sentences. 2 are about a film, and 2 are about movies. So a film attempts to convey or explore something larger than itself. So as Jana said, it's about art. It's not just made for the sake of the movie or for the sake of entertainment. because a movie is about giving the audience exactly what they want. Like Fast and the Furious. There's nothing really going on there. It's
A good
it's
happy
just,
ending in the end.
Yes.
Teacher, that's
Happily
called
ever after.
Wait,
that's
microphones,
called
mute,
fan
wait,
service.
mute your microphones.
That's
Let
called
me-
fan service.
Yes, fan service. So the Fast and the Furious movies are only focused on those fast car scenes and chasing each other around the city and maybe some shooting, some action involved. I think that in the last one they had Idris Elba play a super soldier or something. So it's not artistic. There are very good fight sequences, all right, yes, but it's about making the audience feel good so they can just eat popcorn and buy the ticket. That's it. A film has a different background. They try to achieve something. For example, let me explain. If there was if you were watching like an episode of all the teachers, for example, the chemistry teacher fighting with the English teacher, fighting against the math teacher in Yahya Kemal, and everyone is fighting, kung fu fighting, and I don't know, the chemistry teacher just throws some vials with I don't know what, some kind of weird substances or experiments, and they burn my face. It's not art. It's about making the audience feel good. But if you have a movie focused, a film focused on me, for example, about how the pandemic has affected the teacher who wants to be inside the classroom and to share the energy with his students, but now he's looking at the screen and he doesn't feel okay, the sun is shining outside and he's still unhappy. That would be film, because it goes deeper, it explores some very human feelings. And the second distinction is that a film forces the audience to grow in some way, to leave the theater slightly better humans than when they came in. It stands up for something. It makes you consider an idea. Like if you see a film about bees, the idea is that when you leave the theater, you will understand the importance of it and how the process, the pollinating process is done and everything. When you leave the theater after watching a movie, you generally feel happy and satisfied, but nothing changes with your mindset. It's not like when you watch Fast and Furious, you'll go like, driving fast is not good. I shouldn't do it. Nobody should do it. We should do something about it. No one does that. You just go there for the entertainment. Maybe you go there on a date and that's it. So the reason why I'm explaining this is because it's a very different process when you adapt a movie or a film into a book and when you adapt books into movies or films. So this is what I'd like us to do now. I would like you, please don't browse the internet. Just from the top of your head, can you think of any movies or films which were adapted into books?
I honestly don't know. That movies were adapted.
No, it's mostly that movies and films are created from the books.
That's a different thing. Now we're talking about the first aspect of it.
Yes, I'm saying that that's more common.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Marco. Yana?
I know that they made a lot of Star Wars books after Star Wars was released, and they are not.
Do you know anyone who's read them?
No. I mean, I know people that love Star Wars, but I don't
Do you think
I've
even
never
they
met a- I
have
know.
read them?
like read the books.
Teacher, I know movie and film adapt. No, wait.
I love the movies.
Okay, no, never mind.
Yeah, the Star Wars movies are a classic. I mean, everyone has to have watched them at least once in their life. Yana, do you think that the Star Wars fandom, after watching the movie and when the books were released, that they read them?
I mean, hardcore fans, the ones that are purely obsessed with the Star Wars universe and stuff. I guess they bought them and they read them, but I don't think that the
Sure.
feeling of liking the books as much as the movies ever is the same.
Teacher,
Yes.
It's different when a movie is made after a book, because then I don't know how to say it. It's different
but
because
you can feel that there
you've already had your own idea of what it's supposed to look like. You've already had your own imagination. Like, for example, after the Harry Potter books, you've already created an image of what the story is in your head, and then when you see it from someone else's point of view, it's different. But when you make a book after a movie, you already know what the movie looks like. You can't create your own idea of it.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Irem, what do you?
Sure.
Irem,
Teacher, I totally agree with Yana, but I want to say that you need first to make a book because the scenario, the writing part is kind of a book.
It makes sense.
It's because teacher.
I see what you're saying. Wait. Let's follow the rules.
Can I just say one thing?
It's Irem's turn. Sorry. Irem?
Okay. Oh, it's
I was
alright.
gonna say Percy Jackson for books adapted into movies. They're bad, but they're still adapted.
Wait, they were books adapted into movies or films, or do they belong in the first category?
Books adapted into movies.
Yeah, Percy Jackson. Let's put the Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings.
Teacher, about movies adapted into books.
Yes.
Do like comic and manga count as a book?
Of course. Yes.
Oh, well, then there's any single anime has a manga.
For
And almost
example,
any
all
DC.
all the Marvel and all the DC
Have comics.
movies
So
are.
technically,
Now, I consider all of the DC and Marvel things movies, not films, except for one. I don't know if you've watched Logan. Logan is a film. Logan portrays Wolverine at the end of his life.
It's much darker.
It's much darker, and it was shown at the Cannes Festival. And the Cannes Festival is about serious films. So the jury
It's not a movie that you would like expect to watch and be like, oh my God, he shot this guy. No, he killed that guy.
It's
like
about,
you rethink your life after watching that movie.
Absolutely. So my point is here is that it's much easier for you to to list books which were adapted into movies and films instead of the other way around. Simon,
there's one more way. There's movies.
Teacher, wait, can you go at the Word document and scroll a bit up so?
Teacher, if comics count, Star Wars books were made before the movie because comics Star Wars were made before.
No, and also
movie,
the scenario.
Yeah.
Because the first Star Wars movie is like part 3 or part 4. It says like episode 3 or 4, but like there's scenarios for the I think first, second, and third. But in that time, technology wasn't that. It wasn't that good. CGI wasn't that good at the time, and they couldn't adapt them into movies.
Absolutely.
But the
So
scenario
we have moved to this second bit. We'll come back to the first one after covering this. So as you just proved, novelizations or adapting movies into books are not seen as very entertaining. And I don't think that they've been particularly useful and very popular. For example, Back to the Future. I don't know if you've watched this movie. It's about Mac and they go back to the future. When they finished making the movies, they released the books. No one remembers it. No one has even bought it. I don't think so. On the other hand, all these movies that were based on novels have reached amazing potentials. And there is one. So Gone with the Wind. Have you heard of this film? It's a film. Gone with the Wind is something that your parents probably like. It's one of the best classics of all time. It's Clark Gable talking, saying, frankly, dear, I don't give a damn. And he's got a mustache and he's suave and everything. And that movie was released 80 years ago. And a very recent example would be Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit was nominated for Best Motion Picture at the 92nd Academy Awards. It lost to Parasite. That year, the contest was huge because there were very good movies good films like The Irishman or Joker, Marriage Story, 1917. All of these were amazing pictures. Jojo Rabbit was one of them. And Jojo Rabbit actually won an Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay because it was based on an actual book. So it is something, what I'm trying to say is that this is something that started happening a long time ago, from the time they started making movies, and it's still going on. And I think that undoubtedly we can say that books adapted into movies are much more popular. So I'd like someone to tell me why this relationship is so asymmetrical. Why isn't it equal? Why are books adapted into movies over here while the others are here?
I know.
Zehra
I
would
think
like
teacher-
to... Wait, raise your hand. Marco, please. Zehra, raise her hand first. Zehra.
Well, when the books are first released, when people start to read them, they get popular. But when the movies are out, they can more visualize it and it's more popular. While when you get a movie, you already know how to visualize it. You know most things. And if the books come out, nobody will want to read it because usually people choose the movies over books. Even though that's
I think
Teacher,
that
I know.
I think that a lot of people find movies as a social trigger for conversations, right? When you're sitting next to your classmate, you start talking about, oh, did you watch Black Panther? Oh, it was so good, Wakanda Forever, or whatever.
I watched
You
that.
don't really do that with books, right? You don't go, hey, did you read on page 5? Expecto Patronum or whatever. You don't do that. You talk about movies.
Okay,
So
sometimes
I
we do
actually
that.
do that.
We
Yeah, but
do
you-
that.
yes, but you do that
Yeah, like with
with people. You do that with people who have read the books and you know they've read them. The thing is that you can't expect everyone to have read the Harry Potter books, but you know that about 90% of the people have watched the movie, so it's more available and the conversation is going to be more convenient. So my
For
next question,
example-
wait, I have to interrupt
Wait,
you.
let me just say this,
Okay, Sarah,
please.
yes. Let's,
You said that people only talk to the books to people that read them, but I have a friend. She's in the class right now. Her name is Iram. She talks to me about this book. I haven't even read it. I already know the entire book and the plot and all the characters. I haven't read the book.
Yes, I get it, but wouldn't you agree that most people talk about movies more often than about books? It is considered cool. People actually thought that they were in the Black Panther universe. They were going Wakanda forever on the streets. No one does that with books. You don't dress up like a hobbit just because you've read The Lord of the Rings. Yes, you would do that if you go to Comic-Con, but not like in everyday life, because people would be like, hey, did you watch Black Panther? Oh, Wakanda forever. Next question. I have to hurry because we could have this discussion for ages. And I would like you to think very hard about this. It's a very serious question. What would it take to give novelizations the same level of prestige and cultural impact as film adaptations? In other words, how do you make movies adapted into books cool and relatable? Sarah and Yana have raised their hand again. Is there anyone else who would like
No,
to?
I have my hand raised for the entire class, so that's 30 minutes.
Oh,
I
sorry.
would put it down. So
Okay.
I like to take my role early.
Okay, so Sarah, what do you think about this?
Well, how do you put them together? It's really because when you put a book before a movie, a lot of people don't like the movies that much because when you have a book, you actually visualize the characters on your own way. So when you see the people in the movie, it's kind of they don't like it.
All right.
Either they like it or they don't.
But how do you make it cool? I think Sarna has raised her hand. Sarna would like to answer. Sarna, what's your opinion? How do you make movies adapted into books cool? How do you make, in other words, how do you make reading cool?
Were you asking me, teacher?
Yes, well, you raise your hand, right?
Yeah, on accident. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay, then Simon. No, Nicola Peikov, because it's his first time today. Nicola, what do you think?
Teacher, I'd say for me, if it was a book like a longer one, I wouldn't read it. It would kind of get boring after some time. But if for me to get very interested in it, for it to be very cool, I would say if it was made into a comic book where you would have the characters pictured as well, I would enjoy reading it a lot.
I have another way. Just don't make the book the same as the movie. It would get boring to read it. Make a
Maybe
plot
you
twist or
could
something.
come up with a sequel on what you have
Maybe,
already.
no.
The sequels,
like-
no sequels. I'm not the biggest fan of
Different
sequels.
teacher. Like for example, if you have the Star Wars franchise, so that's 9 movies already.
Okay.
Don't make 9 books. Make 3 books for the 3 different generations and make them better. It's worth it more for the people to like your book if it's 3 good books actually instead of 9 not so good books.
Right. Okay. Do you think that teachers and
It was-
schools?
Can I just say this? It was the same with the Hobbit movies. Like they made 3 movies from 3 hours, so that's 9 hours of movies when they just could have made one amazingly good 3-hour movie.
I have to rebut that because in the movies they included material from other books as well in order to make the plot more linear, to be more understandable for everyone. So I actually kind of agree with that step. Does anyone think that maybe teachers and education schools could have a role in doing that, or it has nothing to do with actual education? Think about it. We don't have to solve everything.
I think it has to do something with education.
Maybe. Now let me go back to the last part of the first question. It says, should shows, books, and academic competitions that take advantage of other works' popularity be criticized for lack of originality, or praised for finding new ways to satisfy audience demand? For example, let's go back to the dragon stuff. If Game of Thrones was this huge thing, social phenomenon, every following show that includes dragons, would it be considered original or not?
Depends on the plot.
Yeah, but if it's like
If
the
it's completely
same
the same.
type of show, like mythical creatures like dragons and whatnot, it will be considered a copy of the.
But it's usually the
Okay,
same.
it wouldn't.
Just a
It wouldn't be
it's usually-
personally.
It's usually the same plot, right? There's a dragon, someone needs to kill it, or then the dragon proves to be one of the good guys, and it's it's not like there are infinite options for you to come up with a good plot. Every good plot includes a hero, a villain, a plot twist, like maybe a dragon. And how do people get away from that? Sarah, you were trying to say something?
For example, let me give a personal example. For example, I've watched like 5 animes with the same plot. For example, there's one person, he's really strong, he has magical powers, he defeats the villains, boom.
Always the same.
But the characters are the things that drag you into watching it sometimes.
But it's
Like,
the
for
same
example,
story, Sarah. For example, Naruto, it's the underdog story. He's the underdog, he becomes the Hokage. If you watch My Hero Academia,
yes.
What was the little guy? Baku? No, what was he?
Midoriya.
Yeah, Midoriya. So he's the underdog. He doesn't even know that he has special powers. He becomes the hero. If you talk about Hunter x Hunter, Gon, he's the underdog. He becomes he saves the whole world at the end. Are they original? They follow the same plot.
They're very original.
How are they original?
Sure,
Because they have every story has their own way into doing it. It's interesting. They make it interesting. They have different types of characters.
They have different powers.
It's the same thing.
But teacher,
But
I
it's
think
not copy. It's interesting.
it's not a copy. The only I would say it's original. There's different types of character development in some of them.
Yeah, I get it, but
Or the supporting characters are
bottom
much.
line, they deal with the same thing. People want. Do you know why people like it? It's because of the special powers. It's because of the superhero
Yeah.
powers. So if you abuse that element, is it original? I have to interrupt the meeting. Come back immediately. We'll continue with this, and then we'll talk
All
about
right.
Harry Potter.